Hi, everyone. My name is Jay. I'm one of the program officers with the communities team. Welcome to tonight's panel on youth representation on local cultural councils. I'm joined by my team, Gelmi, Hanako, Timothea, and I don't know if Carolyn's here. But Gelmi will be moderating this panel discussion with me while my teammates are handling the chat. Our panelists will be answering questions at the end, but please feel free to enter any questions that you have throughout the duration of the panel. Tonight, we're going to be hearing directly from the students who have been appointed to the cultural councils and hear about their experiences serving. And we're also going to hear from other cultural council members who have on how they recruited youth, what their best practices are on their council with students, and providing insight for other cultural councils around the state who would like to have students appointed to their councils. Without further ado, we're going to let the panelists introduce themselves, starting with Antonio. If you could state your name, your pronouns, and which council you're serving with, and how many years you've served so far.
Sorry, my dog is right here, but my name is Antonio Saenz. I'm a junior at Rayburn High School, and my pronouns are he, him. This is my first term. I've served on the Dover Cultural Council, and it's been since the summer, and I'm looking to go for another one this year.
Popcorn it to Julianne.
Hey everyone, I'm Julianne Applegate. I am co-chair of the Amherst Cultural Council. I've been with the Cultural Council, I have to think back, I think it's been 4 years now. And we've been honored to have several high school students join our council over the years. So I'm here to speak about that.
I'll popcorn it to Jenne.
Hi, I'm Jenne Rayburn. I'm with the Melrose Cultural Council, and we have had 2 student members for the last 3 years, I guess it is. And I've also been on the council for 3 years.
And our final panelist speaker.
So my name is Zainab. I'm a junior at Westborough High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been on the council for, well, this is my first year, and it started in like fall, and I hope to be a part of it next year.
Cool. Gelmi, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am the program officer. I'm one of the program officers on the community team. My regions are the Greater Merrimack Valley as well as the Metro West region. So I know that a lot of LCCs are probably on here, but anybody, please feel free to send me any emails if you need anything within those 2 regions or in general.
Thanks, Gelmi. Okay, now we're going to move into our moderated discussion, beginning with the students. So Antonio and Zainab, this first question is for both of you. How did you find out about your local cultural council and what inspired you to join?
All right. Well, how did I find this cultural council? I was kind of over the summer, I was looking for different ways online where I could just kind of help out with my community, and first place I looked was on the Dover town website. There's a section of committees and councils there, and the one that caught my eye was the Dover Cultural Council. I had been a member of a youth philanthropy group the year before. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the route that I'm trying to help out with. And I asked the woman that helps run the Dover Cultural Council, like if I could help out, and it aligned perfectly with how exactly how I wanted to help out in my community and luckily, she's a very nice woman. She let me join, and that's how I found it.
Cool.
So I knew about my cultural council like a long time before the opportunity, um, because our council holds this like town-wide event called Arts in Common. Um, and it's an annual event where like there's like a bunch of art vendors and like performers who come just sort of like share their culture and like share their art. Um, and so as soon as I moved to Westborough, that was one of the first things that my friends introduced me to. And then I've also been a part of the fine arts programs at my school, and so they've kind of linked together. Um, and so I just kind of like grew up with the council, I guess. And so the opportunity as well, it was like kind of, I wouldn't say advertised, but it was like introduced to kids who were in like the high school and especially like the fine arts kids. So that's how I came to be a part of the council.
Cool.
Well, thank you both for joining your council. That's awesome. What are your roles and responsibilities on your council? Like how, like what do you do every day with them, with the council?
Well, like among the other group members, I help out with, looking at pending grants and promoting the Dover Cultural Council around the town. There was this one day we have this festival in Dover called Dover Days, it's in the town center, and we were handing out surveys on what people were interested in doing with the town, with different cultural events. What were their priorities, what they wanted to see more of, and just things like that. So we could kind of gauge what the community wanted. And beyond that, it was just looking at grants and helping decide which ones we wanted to, provide to, and which ones we decided weren't really aligned with what the town wanted or needed. And as a youth member on the Dover Cultural Council, I find myself responsible kind of giving my own input as the only teenager on the council. I mean, it's a role that I mean, I'm not sure if many councils have, but I don't think the Dover Cultural Council has had a youth member in recent years, and I think it's important to have different demographics.
My role is pretty similar. We help out, or I have other members who are also youth members, but I and they meet together, help out with things like grants. And then also, when I joined, it was like, I think the month before Arts in Common happened. So I wasn't able to be too hands-on on that. But right after, we did a lot of, so I attended it. And so right after, we did a lot of just like discussing like where we think we could improve, where we think things went really well. And so a lot of it is just being a part of the conversation and just adding your input. Because obviously, like everyone sees things differently. And like as a younger person, like I can see which stalls the teens are going at because those people are my friends. That's the places I went to with them. So like, oh, like this, I don't know, like this vendor had stuff that was really like catching the eyes of young people, or like just things like that. So that's my role.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. I love that you guys are able to bring like a fresh perspective and a different lens that some of the councils may not have before bringing you guys on. So that's really awesome. So what advice would you guys have for cultural councils around the state who are looking to recruit youth? Any insight would be awesome to share.
I just think it's important to, reach out and get the youth involved. It's one of the best ways to get more of the community involved, because once you have the once you have the youth involved, you have you already have the foundation, but once you have the youth involved, then you can start to grow from there. It's easier to have more of an influence. It's easier to, get more people involved because students are very impressionable. And it's, they have a large impact, and we're the future of all of our communities. And yeah, it's important to have depth too and different opinions.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, of course. What advice do you have for other councils around the state who are looking to bring on youth onto their councils?
So yeah, I definitely agree with Antonio. I'd say a lot, at least like in my case, the way I found out, I knew there was a council, but I didn't know that they were like looking for youth until I saw flyers around my school, which I think is a really good way to like get people's attention. And then there's also like just like you could email schools and ask if they can let people know, hang up flyers in like town libraries. That's one way. And then also just making sure like you have like a way to really interact with the people in your town. So just like the council's presence itself can be known so that youth can just reach out if you're not like doing things like flyers and stuff like that. And then also, there's one thing that's like bringing the word out about having like opportunities with the council, but like also making sure, like Antonio was saying, like giving teens an opportunity to be really involved in the council so that if there's someone who has had experience in the council, they like share their experience with other students who could be prospective members of the council.
That's awesome. Actually kind of related to my next question. Do you have any advice for any current or future youth council members, anybody who, much like yourselves, are interested in volunteering and get to be on a cultural council? Would you have any advice for them on, best practices, things that may come up that are unexpected, anything?
Any advice for youth trying to get involved?
Mhm.
Just take the risk and try to get involved in as many ways as possible. Worst thing that happens is you get rejected. And in the best case, in any other scenario, you'll be able to help out with the community. And that's a great thing that I think a lot of communities may lack, to have input from everybody. And yeah, it's just important to have that.
So I agree with that. Because from personal experience, like, I saw the flyers and I took the risk and I signed up. So I definitely say like go for it if you want to, be a part of something like that. But I also want to say, kind of on the risk topic, but if there's something from like your own culture that you want to share with the town, like don't be afraid to, because like everyone has like different backgrounds and different experiences. People who may come from the same country may have like completely different traditions and experiences. It's like everyone's input is really valuable. So like definitely speak up, like if there's something you want to share or if there's like some idea that you have, because like there's no bad question, there's no bad suggestion. That's my advice.
I do have a follow-up question. How was it when you guys first came onto the council? Did you feel like you were, welcomed and, were provided with like a good orientation with how all of this works? Because I think when you're getting into, local government, it can feel a little bit intimidating, or you're not sure how the process works. And especially, with what we all do with Mass Cultural Council and the local cultural councils, it's, the grant world and, how all of that works is very complex. So did you guys feel like you were, welcomed, and the other cultural council members kind of helped you guys integrate into the council smoothly?
Yeah, I think I felt incredibly welcome when I joined, when I was on the first meeting. And as for, preparation, I had to go through this like it was a very long walkthrough of rules that I had to follow and different but yeah, I think that helped. And again, with the youth philanthropy group that I had helped out with, I had already known how to deal with grants, which also helped. And even if I didn't, I'm sure I'm certain the members of the Dover Cultural Council would have helped me through it.
I would say that, yeah, my council was really welcoming. I had two other members who were new to it as well, so we kind of banded together. But yeah, the council was really nice, and they were just like, in our first meeting, like they were just asking about like how's school, how's life, like it was just getting to know each other. And I will say like the whole government aspect of it was a little intimidating, because there was like, I don't know, like half an hour long Zoom call I had to attend with all the rules, which was definitely a lot to go through. There was like the official papers and stuff I had to do. So it was like a little intimidating at first, but like once I was like actually like getting to the meetings, getting to know everyone, like it's kind of like natural now. So
Oh, that's really good. I love to hear that. Okay, so now we're going to move into the next portion, which is for the LCC chairs. The first question for your Julianne and Jenny is, how did you guys work with your municipality on even getting students onto the council?
I'll let Jenny go first.
Okay. Well, so when we started this program, which was just, as I said, 3 years ago, it was really the idea of our council chair. I'm not the council chair, but our council chair, Arlene, and our mayor, Paul Broder, mainly because we have a pretty great advocate in our mayor for youth involvement. And he really believed that being on the council and participating in municipal government was a way for students to contribute to the community in an official capacity and, gain experience and insight. So having the mayor as part of that was important. It gave us some credibility in the effort. So we reached out to the high school, and we reached out to the high school administration because although we definitely wanted to include any of the students in the arts. We have a great theater program and photography and so forth. We also wanted everyone to have an opportunity to apply, and the high school worked with us to facilitate that process, to identify juniors and seniors who are interested, to fill out the applications, and then we vetted them, and the mayor interviewed them.
So in the case of Amherst, the plan to bring in students started before I was co-chair, but I did lead the efforts for the prior chair. So I wasn't in the discussions at the time with the mayor, but we'd heard about other cultural councils doing this, and it's kind of funny when I joined the cultural council. Gigi, who was chair then, shared that when she joined, the average age was definitely post-retirement and maybe more like 76 years old on average. And so when I joined, and I was a mom who had, kids in high school, middle school, there was one other person my age. So we brought the average down. But since then, with high school students, we've had local college students, recent grads, we've really diversified. And it's so important to do this because there can really be all kinds of bias. And not that folks who are post-retirement on, age as a whole collective are trying to do anything other than serve the community, but certainly having young voices is something that was very much needed, and we've been working towards that. So we, this was also during the pandemic when we brought in the high school students. So what we did was I knew several of the teachers who were in the arts and reached out to them individually, and they came back with some recommendations. And there were some things we had to reconcile. You know, one of them was, would the town support people under the age of 18 having an official position and being able to vote? In the end, we decided to go with 3 non-voting members, and that allowed us to bring in someone officially as a council member who could vote. This has all worked out wonderfully. The member that we brought in from the community, who is an adult, is my co-chair now, who's been a wonderful addition. And bringing in 3 non-voting members was really fair to the students. One of those students has become a voting member over the years since then. But, you know, it was good to have 3 students come in together because they had more confidence to speak, but students are also really, really busy. So it would have been, you know, difficult from a quorum point of view if we had decided to only bring in one of those students, which would have been only one voice, right? And then have them as a voting member, because the truth of the matter is that all of the students at times were so busy that, you know, they couldn't necessarily make the commitment, especially during the grant cycles. So all of that was in discussion a little bit with the town at the time, and it was pretty collaborative, and it's worked out really well all around. And again, our one member who is a graduating senior this year did move on to be a voting member after serving the first year. So it's just been great. And the town's been very supportive.
That's awesome, and we always love to hear it when the town's supportive. It makes it makes everyone's life so much a little bit easier. Speaking of, are there any other? So I think we've talked about them a little bit, but are there any other considerations your council makes when having youth attending voting meetings or public events? Judy, we appreciate this, wrote in the Q&A, in Dover's, members are appointed by the selectmen. We needed to get a waiver for Antonio, as the town bylaws prohibit residents under the age of 18 from serving on town committees and councils. So things like that. I'm aware that some councils require an adult to be at an event if the youth are also attending. So we're just, you know, anything else that's like that?
Sadly, one thing that just came up with during the pandemic and Zoom meetings was we actually had to disable all chat for our meetings, or at times have it moderated so that it would go to the moderator and not to the group, because someone who wasn't even from our community joined like from out of state and said some inappropriate things online just as a troll thing. So, you know, it's one thing when you have adults in the room, but, you know, when we have our students in the room, you know, everybody deserves the respect, but we all kind of felt a tremendous kind of shock that that would happen, and we wanted to be sure that they were in good space.
Yeah, in terms of Melrose, we include student members in activities, and we assign them responsibilities. So for example, beyond the fall grant review process, we organize a fall and winter event where students have opportunities to be table facilitators, to present scripted material if they choose, in terms of introductions and so forth. We have a liaison program where each member is responsible to reach out to 1 to 3 grantees to help them navigate the process, keep tabs on the events, and report back to our council. And then we also have other, you know, activities. We have to decide what our questions will be for our annual survey. We onboard new members every year. So they participate in all of those different aspects of the council, as well as attending various events around town. So, I think that there are always concerns raised regarding how aware and responsible students will be, how seriously they will take their obligations, and what their ability will be to, think critically and fairly. And I think it's important to remember that once applicants have been vetted and approved, there's still work to be done to onboard youth members, just as we onboard adult members onto our councils. So you need to build trust through open communication and respect. And our student members, as the students have said today, the youth members have said, they are nervous and anxious, and they want to do a good job. And so this is a new experience, and they might feel a little bit out of their comfort zone. And it's important to listen to them, to acknowledge them. And I think when they feel respected and seen and competent, they tend to contribute more, and they have a very high bar for themselves. It's not something we need to set for them. And since they lack experience, it's important to partner with them. I think some of the youth members mentioned this as well. It's important to partner with them, with a member, for coaching, for moral support and advocacy, because sometimes they can be a little quiet in the beginning. And it's important that, as someone said about diversity, every voice needs to be heard. That's why they're there. We really believe that empowering them with this platform to express their views and make decisions makes the city a better place, and it's critical for us.
Jenny, I want to ask a follow-up question. And Julianne, you can hop on this too, but how did your councils even go about deciding what the students' roles and responsibilities would be before they even came on?
So our council had, it was brought to the council. It was championed by the chair and the mayor, and there was discussion about whether or not they should be full participants. But I don't, we're pretty proactive with engaging youth in our city. And we're really adamant about making sure that students have opportunities and have a voice, not just on this council, but in other parts of our city. So there wasn't a lot of doubt about it. And it maybe not so much like Amherst. We didn't have to have a lot of restrictions lifted or votes about it. It was something that was pretty seamless.
Sure. As far as Amherst goes, it was the transition was, I guess, our 3 high school students joined right about the time that Matt and I became co-chairs. So honestly, as far as like the overall kind of planning and organization, no, it was pretty organic. We did have to look into what it meant to have non-voting members at that time and how to work with that in the meeting, but it was all really pretty easy to do. So as far as all of our meetings, they were, invited and attended as, in every other way other than voting, full council members. They've volunteered for, and not just volunteered for, but they have really been dedicated to a lot of subcommittee work. And they've really taken the lead with taking on certain responsibilities, maybe for like social media posting, or during the pandemic when we weren't having live events, they were the ones who said, well, surely we can do something. What if we, really safely do a bunch of showcase videos, and then we'll edit them with Amherst Media and get them online, and that really came from the students, and they really, led and executed that work with, some mentorship from the rest of us, but really owned it. So and the perspectives that they're bringing, I can tell you from having been there before we had them, it's just a whole different level of discourse. And when we are voting on grantees projects, it's so much better informed with their perspectives included.
Okay, so into my next question, you're already kind of touching
Wait, hold on.
on it
I'm
already.
so sorry.
What
Uh,
happened?
no, you're great. I just wanted to, we have something in the chat that was just like relevant at this
Oh, go
point,
ahead.
from Alice, in Falmouth, or from Alice saying, in Falmouth, the town council said a student could be under 18 but couldn't sign a contract. And then also just because we're on it, a question from Sharon. When you have 3 youth on a council, can you, like, they're looking for how many council members do you have total, not including the 3 youth as well? Sharon is saying our town is smaller on the Cape and we have a smaller council. So I think they're just looking for like some comparison.
Well, so I can speak for Melrose. So we have 2 youth members and our council is about 14 members. And it's very helpful to have more than one. I think this was mentioned before because we have a junior and we have a senior, and we try to continually have somebody kind of coming through the ranks. So we have somebody with a little more experience. They can help us identify new members to come onto the council. They can mentor people in the youth members as well. And you have to keep in mind that, whatever your academic calendar is, the students are in school September to June. They have they have various recesses and breaks. So you have to take that into account. They get busy at certain times of the year, and depending on what kind of other activities they're in, or as a senior, they may have college outbound activities that they're doing. You just have to keep all that in mind. So even 3, as Amherst has, makes a lot of sense because you want a little bit of overlap and they become a team that helps keep each other informed.
So in the case of Amherst, we have 9 possible council member seats. So when the students came in, and so we had then 3 additional non-voting that the town approved. We were under the understanding that even as students, you would have to come in at the time with a 3-year term, which is what we do for our actual council members. So it made the search a little bit strange at the time because we were, at the end of that school year, we were saying, no, we can only have you recommend freshmen because we're going to need to keep them until senior year, which I don't think is actually realistic. I think it's much better where you do have it on that rolling basis, and going forward, we understand that we can be much more flexible. We did get a great group coming in, but yeah, they do sometimes have to trade off as to who can be there. And I think it's for everyone to be very understanding of just how busy students are, like junior year when they're writing their college applications and working and doing extracurricular, and some of them are working a job too. As an adult, I can't even imagine being that busy. And I just so appreciate that they volunteer for this service and the time that they give.
Thank you. Sorry, Jay.
That's okay. Thank you all for your service, really. So Julianne, you were already touching on it, but for both of you, do you remember a time before there were students on your council? If so, can you talk about what's changed since adding them on? And if not, can you speak on what it's been like having students on the council?
I think I've said lots about how great it is to have students on the council, and I can be really brief with the difference. There are so many grant applications that serve anywhere from young children, even toddlers, pre-K, right, through high school students. And when we did not have the students there, it was me and the other council member who had kids in school saying, oh, I remember, or my friend said, we were really working in the dark other than, our immediate personal experience. So we've just had much more informed, better decision-making, and a better understanding of the artists that are coming to us for grants and the impact that they make. When a student says, this changed my life, or you can't miss this. This is the thing that I most look forward to, each school year, is having this person come in, carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, I second that. And I guess what I would add is spent a time discussing what the challenges are for our grantees when they're trying to put programs on in our town. And, our student members pick up on issues that sometimes other people overlook. For example, we really struggle with having affordable venues in our town for organizations to tap into. And that became a particular issue for one of our student members when she realized that there wasn't any affordable space for a youth group that was trying to put on a theater program, and they have limited or no fundraising capacity. So that brought to light an issue that then became something we talked about quite a lot on our council. I think the other thing that's important is we have a long way to go in our town to being more diverse. And so the youth voices, like all diverse voices, are really essential for us because they have the most immediate, the most current, and the deepest knowledge of their experiences, and they are unique and important to us.
I love that. They are unique and important, as are all of you on the membership, but yeah, absolutely. You've both touched on this, but I think it's worth bringing up and reiterating just because it's so important. The youth on your council, the students on your council, are they voting members or not? And like, can you talk, and maybe this is just reiterating that, but just in case anybody's come in later or whatnot, can you just talk about that some more?
Well, so our members are voting members. That was something that the chair and the mayor were very adamant about, actually. I think that the council feels strongly that that's important for them to actively participate in our discussions of proposals and to have real decision-making power to cast votes regarding council-funded projects in their community. It makes it very real because for baseline, we have to have quorum in order to run a meeting. So if you don't have enough of your members attending, then you can't get any official work done. So it is a bigger responsibility for our student members when they are voting members. And obviously, as I said before, that involves doing a lot of research and reading, being a partner and reaching out to grantees after the fact. And, it's been fine. We haven't had any issues with it. I would say that you have to set your expectations accordingly. It does require more effort and intention on the part of the council members to make this work, because as we've talked about, students have their own set of challenges during the school year, and we have embraced that and we make it work.
So I can add that when we brought the 3 students on, I guess the beginning of their sophomore year, at that time, again, I wasn't in all the discussions with the town, but I don't think we were approved then officially to have them as voting members. So they were fully participating, and when we voted, we would ask if they supported or not, but their vote wouldn't sway it one way or the other. Luckily, we've got a pretty tight council, and most of the time we come to a consensus, and it's infrequent that it's not a unanimous support for something by the time we fully deliberated something. So it would have definitely caused quorum issues, and we didn't have 3 seats available when we brought the 3 students in. But if we had brought 3 students in at that time as voting members, I think we would have had a very hard time schedule-wise really getting through all of the deliberations in the grant cycle. And it is a serious commitment, and I think it's worked out really well that one of those 3 students who did go on to become a voting member did it in full knowledge, having participated in advance of what those responsibilities would be, what it would mean, at the times when there were schedule conflicts and they couldn't be there, and she fully grasped that and joined as a voting member, knowing what the commitment is, so I myself would be hesitant, having had 3 high school students of my own in the house, about really letting someone walk into that much pressure and responsibility without having experienced, that it would be something they could manage and be a benefit to them too, and before making the commitment. I don't know how they'd get there, and it's great that your council's done so well with your student members too.
And I will say that our high school students are required to have a minimum of, I think it's 12 volunteer hours per year, and so 48 hours to graduate. So they also they are motivated to participate as fully as they can.
Wow, our students would be getting far more than 12 hours from their service, because a lot more hours than that. But that's nice that counts towards their graduating credits.
I think Julianne's dog is trying to have his voice heard too. So.
Both of them, there's 2.
Okay, to wrap up the moderated discussion piece, the last question for Jenne and Julianne is, what advice do you have for other councils who want to recruit students?
Well, so I would say, first of all, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think it's important to reach out to the high school, not just to the student artists, although they make great council members, but not to overlook the non-artist students. Our student members have had very diverse backgrounds and interests, including journalism, public relations and marketing, fundraising, economics, politics, and government, beyond all of the arts. So they make great council members too, and bring important perspective. The other thing I would say is the council, and I think Julian's also mentioned this, the council needs to determine how it wants the youth to be engaged and what they should get out of participating in membership. You can think of it a little bit as an internship with a similar structure needed to make sure that the youth members are engaged and they're not just showing up. And I think you need to determine if the council has the capacity to coach and mentor and listen to the students. Because these things are needed. It's a little bit different than having adults on, many of whom come to our council with a prior experience being on councils. I think it's important to consider how much or how little time the youth members can contribute during the commitment. For us, it's a 1 to 2 year commitment. We do have a 3-year term, but we make an exception for our youth members. And for that reason, we decided to include 2 seats, a junior and a senior, that are constantly revolving. As I said, you have to think about the impact of the school's academic year, which is late August, early September to mid-June, and what might be going on during the school year in terms of not just when you have the grant cycle, but also if you have events. We have 2 major events, one in the fall and one in the winter. It happens to be ideal for getting students involved, but it's an important consideration, as well as when you onboard your students, because we are task intensive in the fall. And for that reason, we really need our student members onboarded in the spring, ideally, of the following year, or ready to hit the ground running in September. And along those lines, thinking about how you will onboard and train the students, what kind of opportunities they have, maybe beyond your council to get training. We came up with an idea in our city for a civic leadership academy, because we felt that just beyond our council, that would be a great opportunity in a one-day session for students to get an overall understanding of leadership and civic responsibility in terms of, there's ethical issues, there's the political issues, there's the economic issues, and what it means to develop knowledge and skills about how things work in the city and build leadership capacity in that. It's not something we've moved forward with, but it is on our wish list.
Not much to add there. I think it's worth saying again about not just talking to the high school and the various teachers and students in the arts programs. We're really looking for all kinds of people who are engaged in their community and experiencing culture, right? And all of those perspectives are valid. And while we're talking about youth as an under 18, I would stress that it's equally relevant to reach out to those who are out of high school, whether they're in college or graduate school or working in the area, that those voices remain important too, and they've got their finger on the pulse of what communities need. And some of the most valuable interactions have been between our college students and our high school students, and them collaborating together. And I think that those have been really great experience, especially for those students working with us.
Awesome, thank you. So right now we're going to move into questions from the audience. So one of the first questions I'm seeing, it's a common question actually, is do you guys find if students leaving or moving on to something else or just changing their mind, or something comes up that they can no longer serve, do you find that to be an issue?
We did have that happen as far as two of the three students really just became busy and couldn't complete the full 3-year term, which I think if you take in the full 3-year term, maybe that wasn't a fair way to set things up, and I don't think we would make that requirement going forward. So that's completely understandable. And one of our college students got I can never remember something like the Mitchell Award or something to go study at Oxford, so we had to let him go. But it was a great experience. So I think that's one of the areas where you really need to be careful about your quorums and how quickly you could bring somebody else in and regroup if that happened. And just need to be real about that as you're setting things up. And it's certainly on the community to be gracious when students have opportunities that move them along to other things or are in need of focusing on the things that move their careers and future ahead as they need them to be.
Yeah, and we partner with the high school administration to identify and vet students, because we see this as a very serious responsibility, and we want to impress on our applicants that there is a time commitment that I'm not going to say they're required, but that is the commitment. And just like if you were committing to an internship or if you were committing to some kind of other opportunity, we see this as an opportunity that needs to be taken seriously. And we go through a process to make sure we have students that have the capacity to participate fully. And I guess I would just say that takes a little extra time. So again, and things that the council needs to take into consideration, that is a consideration. We see that as something we are contributing back to our city, because we really value that voice. But it's a commitment on the part of the council too.
Thank you. I think this question, please feel free to whoever would like to respond, but I believe this question might be geared towards the student council members. What exactly, so I guess one of the ways that was effective in, gauging your interest was flyers in school. What exactly stood out to you? Was it like cultural council? Was it volunteer? Was it a nice flyer?
Pretty.
Just
Artsy.
yeah, like was it pretty? Yeah. So like what are, I guess And the bigger question is like, what are the things that, how did the cultural council present themselves in a way that was interesting for you and your friends as well, who are also on the council with you?
Well, in my case, I think I mentioned it earlier, but Arts in Common, which is like a townwide event, like it's a really big thing in our town. And having that as a way to like know who the like cultural council is was like a really big part of it. And having the chance to like be able to I guess like play a role in planning that event. Although I kind of joined a little late for it, but I'll have a chance for the next one. So I'm excited for that. But it's one of the bigger reasons why I joined, because the council had that like presence in our town. And then yeah, the flyer was beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, this next question is probably for the students again. This is from Alice on the Cape. Hi, Alice. What types of mentoring and coaching do you guys think is important for you to have?
I think it's important to have just role models that you can look up to, whether it's teachers, whether it's, leaders on a council like this. And not only just have role models, but people that can help push you to places you want to be. I don't think we can get to many places without the help of those that are willing to help us.
Mhm.
And having these mentors, having these leaders above us really, really helps push people forward.
I guess I'll add on to that. I think that definitely the like I guess adult members of the council are really helpful. Because they just general advice about life, I guess. Like just being a welcoming person in the lives of the people who are the student members. It's really important because not only does it like just help them out as growing people, like help us out, but it also like strengthens our ties with the council. So it just like makes our role just seem a lot more like important. Um, but also, I was gonna say something. It was such a good idea, but I'm forgetting it now.
That's okay.
Oh no, I forgot.
It's okay. If it comes back, you can type it in the chat.
Okay.
There was another question about workload. So how Jenny and Julianne were talking about the amount of responsibilities that you guys have outside of the council. I think we all know during like grant cycle period, it is an absolute like marathon. We're extremely busy during that season. So do you guys feel like being on the council is a heavy workload? Or did you feel like your workload was okay with how you guys had to balance, your school, your jobs, family, whatever it is? Because I know my council members can already feel the heat when it's grant cycle season.
I mean, personally, it wasn't that much of it wasn't bad of a workload at all. I mean, I don't play a fall sport. I play spring and winter, and so I'm just working in the fall besides school, among other things. But the meetings that I had to attend, they didn't run for hours on end. They were manageable. They were at times that I was able to make, and it didn't. And like the jobs that we did, they weren't super. Like it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was a huge weight on my shoulders. And I think as a student, I'm I feel very committed to doing my job in this, and that also kind of helps relieve any weight that could have been on me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't feel like it was that much of a weight on my shoulders. Um, there have been meetings, not many, I think like one that I wasn't able to attend because of like a concert, I think, which I guess kind of ties into the council's stuff, but they were like really considerate about it. So and like the work we've done, I'm like Antonio was saying, like the meetings don't last for like 3 hours. Like they like everyone else like also has like things like work and they have like stuff at home. So it's not like insane time commitments. Like it's like a sensible amount of time. And then also like seasonal wise, like I get busy like once March starts, which is like kind of near the end of the grant cycle for my council. So it hasn't been too bad or busy for me. And then seniors, they're busy like at the way beginning of the year. And that was taken into consideration for them because my two other youth members are seniors. So there was that. And that actually ties in because I remember what I was going to say for the last question. Um, for councils like who might have more than one youth member, having seniors as members is also nice because they can also just be kind of like a mentor in the way that like if you're a sophomore or a junior in high school, like just having a senior there to just sort of help out when they can with whatever like high school throws at you is always really nice. So
Yeah, so then like the relationship you build in the council can help you when you're at school as well. That's awesome. Kind of related. These questions have a lot of synchronicity, which is great. Diane was curious about how's the participation on these council affected your scholastic experience, like academically? Have you, do you put that you're on the council on any resumes, on any like college writing, if you're doing any workshops yet? Has, just very much like that was a great example, but has being on a council affected like your scholastic experience at all?
I mean, sure, it makes me feel, after being on this council, I feel more inclined to help out in different ways more than I had before. It makes me want to continue with like student government next year and just help out with that. And it's just, I mean, yeah, it's kind of changed my perspective on things that I can do, because I mean, probably a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have thought that I could be on this council. And once you have, or once one has a position, it kind of opens up the door to many other things. It's very helpful.
So I actually have mentioned the council on my resume for this summer. A little background. I want to like work with kids like when I get into college and after that. And so for the summer, I applied for an internship at the Museum of Science in Boston. And one of the things they were looking for was like people who have experience with people from multiple different backgrounds. So like I tutor and I work with like the special needs kids at school, and I also mentioned the council, and I was like, I have experience with people from like a wide variety of backgrounds and like ethnicities and cultures, and how like I just have experience with people of like diverse people. And I feel like that really helped because I got the internship. So
Ooh, girl, you a fireball. No, I love that, you guys on the cultural council, it can really be a stepping stone into, working, climbing the ladder and being able to have more opportunities because they're able to, build up this experience and, make these connections, because networking is so important. And these other council members do have, their networks, their diverse talents and their different perspectives. They can give you advice on how, you guys can continue moving, forward in your future, and their connection that you're always going to have. So I think that's really, really cool. Congratulations on getting that internship. We are going to wrap this up. I really do want to thank all of you for joining us. This has been wonderful, extremely helpful for a lot of the councils around the state who are looking to have students. We are going to put together an LCC student toolkit that we're going to send out in the next few weeks. That will answer a lot of the questions that you guys had, especially, regarding like the voting rights, how to get students on, how to work with your city and town, how to do it, what are the waivers, what does that all look like? So we'll put that out there. This is recorded, so it will go on YouTube if you guys ever want to refer back to it. But thank you again. This has been awesome. And I'm going to stop recording.